Of starting your new home journey. This short video is an overview of the buying process when purchasing a home in today's market. With fluctuating interest rates and low inventory levels, whether you're a first-time home buyer or a repeat buyer, it's important to have expert guidance when buying a home in 2024. And that's why we're here. My name is Charles Laird, Associate Broker with Four Houses Realty in Birmingham, Michigan. I'm also a licensed realtor with Coldwell Banker Realty, operating out of Southern California. I've been a licensed realtor since 2004. Both personally and as a company, we've worked with countless buyers through the years, and we know that buying a home can be very stressful. So we've tried to simplify this buying process as much as possible to kind of alleviate some of the stress and confusion. We've broken it down, this process down into 5 stages. So the first stage is pre-qualification. In this stage, you'll talk to your lender and determine how much of a monthly mortgage you can afford and whether it's better for you to go conventional, FHA, or VA in terms of your loan type. Given the fluctuating interest rates and inventory levels, this stage is crucial because what you were looking at last year may be out of reach this year. And that's basically because of the market. Moreover, if you did find a home that you absolutely love, you won't be able to put an offer in without that pre-approval letter. So as far as lenders, we have preferred lenders if you don't have one. Once you get that approval letter, we're ready to go on to stage 2. Now, stage 2 is getting out there and finding a home. Now, in this stage, we'll show you homes that you've identified online that meet your budget and your criteria. We advise you to see as many homes as possible. This way, you can see what's out there. You won't have to necessarily take our word for it because you'll see it for yourself. Now, in this market, it's very important to stay focused on your objective. For example, if you're approved up to $500,000, you may see a beautiful home with all the bells and whistles for $550,000. You may even want to take a look at it with the thought of offering less. 1, this would not be a productive use of your time to look at houses that you don't qualify for. And 2, more than likely, given the market, that house is going to sell very close or over what it's listed for. Another example would be looking at a home that's conventional when you're approved for FHA. There's no point in going out and taking a look at that house. Now, I know this sounds obvious, but these are the conversations that we've had over the years with buyers. So let's stay focused on the objective, find you a home that you love both aesthetically and that you're comfortable with financially. Once we find that home, we'll help you structure your offer based on the market and your comfortability. Strategy will be key, of course, but once your offer is accepted, we'll be ready for the 3rd stage. Now, the 3rd stage will be your private inspection. Typically, you'll have about 7 days to have the home and sewer line professionally inspected. We strongly recommend that you be present for that inspection because if you have any questions about the home, this will be the perfect time to ask the professional. You may see something in the house that you didn't see the first time you saw it. And now, again, is the best time to ask that question. This will be the perfect time for all of your questions regarding the condition of the house. Now, depending on the size, you may want to plan on being there for about 3 hours. Now, if you don't have a professional inspector, we have preferred inspectors that we can recommend to you. Also, I want to underscore the importance of this 3rd stage. We only have 7 days to evaluate the overall condition of this property and make any requests from the seller. If there's too much work to be required, for example, you may want to back out of the deal. If there's something that you want the seller to address, now is the time to ask the seller. But if you fall past that 7 days, it will be understood by all the parties that you are okay with the house as it is and you're ready to move forward. Keep in mind, your earnest money deposit hangs here in the balance, so we have to make sure that we honor that timeline. If you back out of the deal after the 7 days, this is called a buyer default, and you will lose your earnest money deposit. My job is to make sure that doesn't happen. So once we have an agreement that we're moving forward, we're on to the fourth stage of this process called the mortgage contingency. Now, the 4th stage is also vital to this whole process. You'll be working very closely with your lender, getting them the documentation and preparing to have the home appraised by an appraiser. The appraisal will be requested by the lender, but you'll most likely have to pay for it under the lender's direction. The purpose of the appraisal is to guarantee that the property is worth the amount of money that the lender is loaning you. If the property value comes back lower than the purchase price, then we negotiate with the seller to either accept the lower purchase price, or you can agree to pay the difference, which is called the appraisal gap coverage. Now, what's important to note is that the seller is not obligated to accept the lower purchase price. If you are unwilling to come up in the price and the seller is unwilling to come down, then your deal dies, your earnest money deposit is returned to you, and we find you another house. In most cases, though, we found that we're usually able to work out the difference and the deal will move forward. But once that's clear, along with your other mortgage contingencies, The lender will issue what's called a clear to close, and we move on to the last stage, which is the final walkthrough and the closing. Now, of course, the fifth and final stage is very exciting time. We'll schedule your final walkthrough, which is not to be confused with the final inspection, because there is no final inspection. This is the final walkthrough, and the property is just expected to be broom clean. Basically, we're making sure that the property is as you remember. Nothing weird has happened, like the appliances are gone, which were included on the contract. And then we leave the final walkthrough and we head to the title company for the closing of escrow. Before I forget, a couple of days before the closing, you receive a copy of the closing statement, and this will have all your numbers on it. Please review this, and if you have any questions about any of the figures, please reach out to me, and then we can go over those numbers with you. Some of those questions will be better answered by your lender or the title company, but in most cases, I'll be able to walk you through the entire closing statement. Also, by this time, you'll know exactly how much money you'll have to wire over to the escrow company. You'll sign some documents, get the keys, we'll take some pictures, and you'll have yourself a brand new house and you'll be a brand new homeowner. Now, in some instances, the seller will request occupancy after closing. So depending on the seller's circumstances, this can be either 30 or 60 days. And we'll know this up front, and we can either charge the seller a per day fee or per diem, or we can waive the fee altogether depending on the circumstances. On one hand, we can incentivize them by charging a fee per day, but in a very competitive situation, when we put our offer in, we may want to look at waiving some of that fee, if not all of it. Again, this will all be ironed out when we write our initial offer. So in the case of occupancy, once they're ready to vacate the premises, we'll all meet at the house. We'll check out the condition of the house, of course. All parties will sign a document and the keys are exchanged. Any money that's going to be held back in escrow for the rent will be either released to the seller or the buyer. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions about the process, please do not hesitate to reach out to me or any of our agents. We're honored to be assisting you in this important step along your journey. We don't take that for granted, but we do look forward to seeing you in your new home.